It's so nice to see you all here. I am a little bit stressed because it is my first such lecture, but I am so happy to give you my knowledge. So let's begin. My name is Ada Konieczny. I have 7 years of experience working in game dev industry as a generalist and later as a concept artist. I studied computer graphics at the Warsaw University of Information and Technology, and I also did my master's degree in art there. During the production of Floodland, I was a concept artist and illustrator working with Monarch and my art director, Konieczny. Bref. I was responsible for various early concepts, later for the creation of characters and in-game illustrations, and I was also a part of visual development of colors, color relations, and color accents that would later define Floodland's art style. So, we gathered here today to talk about our Lord and Savior, Satan. No, they didn't let me do this. We gathered here today to talk about our Lord's and Savior's colors, obviously. During this presentation, I will talk about color relations, how to create balanced color compositions with the help of the curves, and also I will give you three tips that would make your life easier. One of our earliest and most important statements during the production of Floodland was colorful post-apocalypse. We wanted to show the broken world, but long after the initial blow. We wanted to show the earth regrowing, the earth rebuilding, people helping each other, the bloom, the energy, the hope. And we decided to capture these ideas with bold and vibrant colors. Pretty early on, we faced two main problems. The first problem was finding balance. We either ended up in this muddy, dark, gray end of the spectrum, or on the other end, the space of too much colors, of too much saturation, too much color accents fighting for our attention. The second problem was I was the only one there that took care of the colors. So I had to make around 40 characters, around 20 illustrations, and I also needed to support my 3D artists and my technical artists. So I needed the right tools to work fast and efficiently with these color compositions. So I did what I do best as a concept artist, and I did a little bit of research. First, I researched Nathan Folk's art, obviously, and I noticed that in a lot of places he brought our attention to details and to edges of light and dark through temperature, and not the values, not only values. Also, there was really no pure black and no pure white in his artworks. Pure whites and pure blacks were often redefined using different patches of various colors. In the art of Alexandre Marboubi, I noticed that he uses a lot of pure colors in lights, and even in overly dark and stripped of colors compositions, he finds pure colors, like even on the piece in the right, you can see pure cyan, pure violet, pure green, and pure red. In the works of Angela Song, I discovered vibrant color compositions with color accents almost popping out of the screen. Also, she was the master of redefining colors and lights through different colors, close-by colors. So we are moving to the first part. This will be about color theory, what are color relations, and color interpretations. My main shift in thinking was starting thinking not of a single color, but of colors in relations to each other. How they create either tensions between each other or calm one another. In this example, you can see that even with the smooth transition, the red and blue delivers violet, although it is only the noise between the initial two colors. So how we could create this balanced or unbalanced color composition that would serve our cause? Well, first thing you need to remember is that hues are not equal. Some stays with us longer, and some just sneak in and out. What I mean by this, you can see on this GIF here that I started with two opposite colors, violet and yellow. And while moving all the way right and all the way left, I ended up losing this opposition. Blues and greens are closer to each other on the color wheel. But are they in reality? Well, yes, and you can actually see it on this whole visible color range spectrum for us humans. Here it is the RGB space. In the middle, it is this tilted triangle. And you can actually see that yellows are indeed further away from violets than blues are from greens. The second important thing is that hues have different values. And you can actually see it on the pure color patch on the right, that with hue, it changes its value. And you can see in the desaturated triangle in the middle that the whole spectrum of shadow, of dark and light is changing because of the hue. A little break. On this setup, you can see that the same colors desaturated using hue saturation tool will be desaturated to 50% gray. But in reality, they have different values, and you can see it on the right. So you can't trust your good old Photoshop every time while you're working with colors. On this setup here, you can see that some color stays with us longer. For example, blues, magentas, and reds are staying the darkest for the longest period of time, and yellows and greens and cyans stays lightest for the longest period of time. At the beginning, I was creating this color compositions and ref sheets when it comes to balanced color compositions, and it was a great exercise for the beginning. Also, one of the best exercises is trying to redefine pure black and pure white through different patches of color. For example, here, there is no pure black in the raven, and there is no pure white in the dove. Okay, so right now I either handpick colors or I use my main tool, which are adjusting and playing with the curves, which moves us smoothly to the more practical part of this presentation, curves to the rescue. What is the main change while working with the curves? It allows you to adjust not only value, hue, or saturation of the color, but all three at the same time. And it was the most intuitive way of working with colors for me. I prepared two pipelines, two of my pipelines while working with the curves. The first example is basically coming from balanced composition and making it a little bit more interesting. And the second example is from wild and aggressive palette, how we can balance it out. So the first example has this very easy setup. You only need two colors, balanced colors, preferably with some gradients and noises between them. Next, you are preparing a selection, for example, for the shadows, and you are adding shadows. And you can see here how this little bump in the middle introduces either deep teal with violet or deep blue with warm brown. So after introducing the shadows, we want to make a smoother transition between light and dark. So here I am making a selection, and I do this curve with ups and downs on them. What it does, it brings together two very contrasted places. And the last step is you are adding color accents, and usually just a pinch of them is enough. Here I added vibrant blues and violets. I added dark purple blue and bright orange for the eye. And you basically want to save the most saturated places for the most important places. When I showed this presentation to my friends, they noticed that the yellow on the ear and yellow listed here are a little bit different. And they might seem, the yellow on the left might seem a little bit colder, but in reality, they are the same color. It's just how the color relations work on our color perception. So the second example is basically the opposite. You start with the wild palette and you want to balance it out using curves. Here I prepared the shape of the curve I am using, the zoom in on the pixelated mess, so you could see how the curves are adjusting the mesh. And also I listed the colors that appear during the adjustments. So the first curve is the wave. It brings values closer and calms the tensions between the hues. The second curve is the slope, and this one is a little bit tricky because what it does, it brings the second layer of colors, and this second layer of colors adds depth to the overall piece. Next is the ups and downs, and what it does here, it creates more tensions between some chunks and calms the other. And also see on the colors listed on the right how it brings more vibrancy to the whole piece. I sometimes also do shadows on the curves. It basically gives you ready palettes for the reinterpretations of blacks. And same with lights. This may not look good straight away on your illustration, but it gives you the tools, balanced color compositions. And the magic happens on the last step, because here I handpicked only two colors, this deep blue and bright yellow to the eyes to bring more focus to it, but the rest is picked intuitively from the grainy mess we created. So yeah, you have two pipelines. First is from, okay, I messed it a little, but yeah. First is this balanced composition, and you want to add something more interesting to it. And the second, this grainy mess you create gives you the hints of colors you can use. So the first is faster, but it's more tricky, and the second has more steps, but it's easier in my opinion. It all might seem a little bit tricky, so I will give you three little tips on how to make your life a little easier. Probably the fastest way on creating color composition, base color composition, is your humble brush with hue jitter on. Look here, like with 10%, you have this nice monochromatic basic palette. At 25%, it's becoming more interesting. And at 50%, we have this vibrant yellows, vibrant reds, magentas, and even lime green. Next thing, what I always do is I play around with curves and try different options. Here I wanted to show you how many different palettes you can get by adjusting the curves. And another thing you can do with hue jitter, when you turn it on up to the 80% or, 100%, and make a couple of brush strokes, you can get random colors and see what feels and see what fits best your illustration. Yeah, just checking the color accent. Another important thing is you might want to interlace your colors because with smooth transitions, with smooth gradients, while using the curves, it creates this flare effect. And what it does, it actually mixes the colors on the screen and not in our eyes. While using noise or grungy textures, you are leaving pure patches of colors that could create these tensions between one another. So, for example, small noise will create this flickering effect on the screen, and more grungy effects will leave pure patches of pure colors on the screen. The last thing I used a lot is match color tool, and what it does, it helps you see your color palette in different light. We often tend to go a little bit blind while creating illustration, so I often use this match color tool to see other options. For example, this palette gave me this warm orange retro vibe. This palette gave me this psychedelic effect, and it showed me how far I can go with saturation and weirdness of colors. And this, I really didn't like this one because it made the dark areas too dark and overexposed the lights. So what I would do in such situation, I would get rid of the darkest value on the color palette, and in this way, the match color will bring more vibrancy and colors and less value contrast. So yeah, that would be it for my pipelines and my tips and tricks. Now you know what color relations are, how you can create balanced color compositions, and what are the tools that can help you with it. Thank you so much for your attention. You were you were the greatest audience I had, and probably because you were my first. But still, you were great.
Wow, so that was really quick. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Because we have a lot of time for questions. So if you have some, there's a microphone. Sorry, you can go there.
Hi, Ada. If that was your first presentation, good job. And I really enjoyed how you approached colors with these curves. And I got a question about, have you considered using different color spaces instead of relying on RGB, like HSL, for instance, or lab, so you can specify hue, lightness, and separately?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but with the amount of time and the scope, I didn't have enough time and space to try it out.
Okay, so
No.
yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Any more? No? Okay, so thank you, Ada.
I think we have one.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask if you have any tips or like your methods of working with references according like the colors, like how to gather how to inspire from looking at references, like from photos.
My preferences per color choices, per color palettes. Okay. Well, I don't have the preferences, but I really like to try different options using the curves and match color value and compare them next to each other and see what would fit the purpose I have in my mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Someone else?
Okay, you can still catch me later here or on my social media. It was nice having you. And sorry, I thought it will take me longer, but well, I am fast.
That is okay.
Thank you so much.